Hey everyone. If you've been using Stable Diffusion for a while and you're enjoying it, chances are you're looking to do some things that are a little more sophisticated. One of those things would be taking your favorite model of choice and then injecting your own information into that model by way of adding your own images. That's called model training. Now, there are a few different ways to accomplish this, but if you want to do this on your own local installation, there is a way to do that completely offline without using any other sort of cloud or subscription resources. And so the actual install process has changed slightly since I did this myself just probably a month ago. Okay, so let's get started because it's pretty simple, especially if you already have Stable Diffusion installed and working, then you'll have a lot of the prerequisites covered. So here's what I suggest. I have a folder here, it's called Stable Diffusion, and underneath that I have my automatic 1111 install. I always like to show people how I get to the downloads, so here you want to say Kohya _ SS GitHub, and then it's going to be this top one here. Okay, so once you're here, there are actually great install instructions right here on the main page for GitHub, and you can see there's some interesting training and data sets and things, but we're going to skip down to the prerequisites. Now, if you have working Stable Diffusion, you'll already have Python, you'll already have Git, most likely, if you've installed automatic 1111 in some of the traditional ways. You should already have these prerequisites. You may or may not have this Visual Studio redistributable. I don't think I do, so I'm gonna just grab it. All right, so that's downloaded. Let's just run this right now. I always right click everything and say run as administrator. It's a habit. It's going to ask you anyway. And let's put this on. Sure, we'll install this too. In the meantime, while this is installing, let's take a look at some of the other options. Okay, we have Docker, we have Mac, Linux. This is Windows. So let's keep scrolling down until we find the Windows installation. Pretty straightforward. You need Python, you need Git, and this last piece, which we just are in the process of installing right now. Setup is successful. Hooray. So what we're going to do is we're going to open a command prompt. If you just hit the start button and type cmd, that works. I like to always run it as an administrator. If you happen to be in a directory that's not your preferred directory, you just type cd for change directory, space, and I'm going to type \, that means the root of everything, Stable Diffusion. I just hit tab completion will spell out the rest of the thing for you. And then right from here, I am going to just copy this, grab this, Control C, or you can right click and say copy, and come in here and just right click, it'll paste it in here for you, and then just hit enter. And this will create a directory here for us called Kohya SS, and then put all the files into it. So you don't need to create your own Kohya SS folder. I'm going to chuck it in my Stable Diffusion folder. Okay, so here we are. Let's get rid of that. And here we have Kohya SS, and it just pulled down all of the information. Piece of cake, right? All right, let's see what else the install is telling us to do. Now we go to our Kohya SS folder and run the setup batch file. Okay, I always like to see what things are doing. So let's take a look. I'm going to right click on this setup.batch file just to see what it's up to. Ooh, okay. It's going to set Python version 3.10, check Python for updates. It's going to ask us a bunch of questions. And then copy some files. Okay, well, let's go for it. So you could run this right from here. I'm going to, or you could just come here and double click or run it as administrator. The challenge or the difference between these two is if it proceeds and closes the window and you don't have an opportunity to answer all the questions, that might be a problem. So it's better here if you just say cd, okay, tab. That'll bring you into the Kohya SS folder. dir will just show us all our files here. This is a VM, so it's really slow. And we're going to run ourselves setup.batch file. We do that simply by typing setup.bat. And off it goes. Now, the first time you install this, and especially on this machine since it's painfully slow, this will take a little bit. It's going to go through the script. It's going to pull down all of its... do you want to uninstall your previous version of Torch? This says no, recommended for most. I already have Stable Diffusion installed, and I said no. So I will say not N, which is strange. You want choice 2. Please choose your version. Right now, on the current version of Automatic 11.11, it's running Torch 2. So even though it says experimental here, I'm going to use Torch 2. Just so that my Torch versions are the same. Now it's going to pull down all kinds of stuff. That's 2 gig. It'll go through a bunch of its downloading of supporting information and files and things. So give this some time. And then when this completes, we'll come back and take a look. Okay, as you can see, this has gone through and done a whole bunch of stuff here. It's downloaded many things. It has installed them all and gone through a bunch of setup. Now, it's at the point where it's starting to ask us some questions. And if we take a look, they, I think, just recommend the default responses, but let's take a look at what these things are asking us. Where are you going to run this? Well, we're not going to run this in Amazon Web Service. We're going to run this on this machine, so we'll leave the selection here on this machine, and we shall press Enter. What type of machine are you using? We're going to leave this as a not distributed training, so I think that's going to be the most common situation. Do you want to run your training on CPU only even if you have a GPU? I don't know who on earth would want to do that, so we're going to pick no, and you can see the recommended selection here is no. We're just going to put N, hit enter. Oh, actually it wants us to type no all the way out. That's fine. Would you wish to optimize your script with Torch Dynamo? We're going to say no. Do you want to use deep speed? I'm going to use no because I don't know what that is, and it's also the default selection. What GPU ID should be used for training on this machine as a comma-separated list? We're just going to type A-L-L all. Okay, boom. Now, do you wish to use FP16 or BF16, mixed precision, anything else? I don't know what the results are here, but I'm going to pick 16, FP16, the first one. Let's see what happens. Okay, now it has saved our configuration to this YAML file, and we're back at our prompt. And it's running us in this environment. Okay, so right now we're this far in these install instructions. What it does recommend is that we install this Cuda accelerator. This is if you have more recent graphics card. So here it says right here, NVIDIA 30 or 40 series. So on my real system, I have a 440 series, and I did install this. So let's just go ahead and grab this zip file, save link as, throw it in our downloads, and we'll go through the exercise of installing this in case you have this, and then we'll keep going. This is fairly large, as you can see. So 673 meg. It's not super huge, it's just going to take some time. Okay, that's downloaded. This is pretty straightforward, but I'm going to go through it kind of slowly just so that you see what happens. Here's the file. It's got a very bizarre name. That's just the way it is. I'm going to extract this, and when it's done, I'll show you what to do with it. You'll want to take this entire folder here, and here's our Stable Diffusion Kohya folder that we cloned from Git, and we're just gonna drag it in here. I'm just gonna move it there. Okay, so it's just gonna be in here with the rest of our files. Now, back in our command prompt where we completed our install, we'll go back over here. So we're gonna grab this, copy, do that, and then we're going to grab this. It looks like it was already sort of running anyway, and then we'll copy this as well, copy, let this run. This is actually a little quicker. There it is, boom, it just copies the files to the right locations and things. Okay, now it's saying if you want to upgrade, you can just run upgrade bat, which we'll do. It's right here in this folder. You can see it's here, upgrade bat, which is a batch file. So we're just going to type upgrade bat. That'll do its thing. It's already up to date. Isn't that easy? This will just run through and make sure everything is current. Okay, that wasn't so bad. So what have we done so far? We'll recap. We've cloned the repository. Actually, first we made sure we had all the required dependencies, which is Python, Git, and then this Visual Studio redistributable. Then we cloned the repo, ran through the setup, which nicely automates all of the installation for us, added the optional Cuda acceleration for newer graphics cards, and then ran the upgrade batch file for Windows, which is this. And now I'm going to do something here, controversial as it may be. Much like I have my Stable Diffusion batch file that I set up here, I'm going to make a new. You don't have to do this, but this is just makes my life easier. I'm going to say Kohya startup. I'm going to do two things actually. yes. This is only because I'm slightly crazy, but I'm going to say at echo off, and I'm going to do two things. The first thing I'm going to do is change directory to Stable Diffusion Kohya. Yes. Right. And I'm going to say it's not called startup. It's called GUI.bat. Now, what am I doing here besides confusing you? Here's some information that they're recommending. There are some parameters. For whatever reason, they decided to run this Kohya service on the same port as Stable Diffusion itself. I'm not sure when you'd want to run them both at the same time anyway, but in case you do, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense to run them both at on the same port. So I'm going to change the port. I'm going to grab this, and I don't want to share. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, I promised this would be straightforward and sort of beginner level, but what I've done here is, because I can't help myself, I made a little batch file that I chucked on the desktop. What did I say? Echo off is just so the batch doesn't repeat all of your commands. And then I said change directory to our Kohya directory. This is to remind myself if I want to check for updates or upgrades for Kohya, I can just comment this line out and run this, or I can just run upgrade.bat, but that's a helpful reminder. And then run the GUI batch file, which is start up all of our Kohya information, listen to our local loopback address, which is basically saying your own machine, 127.0.0.1 is local system. And then I changed the server port to 7960 so it doesn't conflict with automatic 1111. And then when you give this -- in browser, it's going to automatically open your default browser. All of that is nice. Actually, it'll open a new tab if you already have your browser open, which is even nicer. Let's find out if that works. So we've done all of the prerequisites. We've installed everything. We've updated. Heck, we can just close this out now that I made this, and I'll just right-click my batch file and say run as admin. And it'll say, do you sure you want to run? And do its things. We'll see if it'll actually run on this machine because it's old. Oh, all requirements are satisfied. That's a shocker because I don't even have a graphics card in here. This is a virtual machine. So let's see if it works. And just like that, there it is. Success. And so this is what the Kohya UI looks like. From here, you can start training the model of your choice. I'll probably set up a separate video regarding model training and how you would do it and why. There are a few steps. It's kind of involved, but it's worthwhile if you're looking for a specific result. I was doing some reading about just generative AI in general, and that's really kind of the next expected territory is highly specified, right? They've trained all of these things, all of these models, all of these things like ChatGPT and things on very broad data sets, and they're starting to hit even the point of diminished returns in just how much these mega AI models can learn. What it doesn't know is very fine, specific things that you particularly want. So when you have your own environment, whether it be in your company or for your own, um, graphics and things, depending on what you're doing, you can get very, very focused. So it's going from a very broad knowledge data set of all the things that are out there that can be known to very specific information. Like, I want to train a very specific model that's good at nature and landscapes and animals. I want to train it on pictures of my cat, and that way I can put cat pictures in landscapes, and you can do that with this. So, and likewise, if you're, if you're in business and you can run yourself a private generative AI model, you can take a nice focused model and then train it with your own data and get even better results from your own information. So, that's really the next step. But anyway, I digress. I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching. I'm going to try to put out some more of these because it's a lot of fun and it's what I'm into currently. So, thanks, everybody.